Annecy, and today I am back with another speed build, and this time we are going to be building a French-inspired restaurant. I thought that I would do a French-inspired restaurant because I happen to love France, and also the last restaurant that I did before the Magic Teapot was Giardino Fresco, I think that's what I called it, and that was an Italian-styled restaurant, so I thought by doing different European styles of restaurants, that would be a really cool idea, and that might be something that I will carry on eventually. So if you do want to see any more creations like this, then let me know if you have any ideas for the future, because I could definitely create something in a similar style. But when I created this, I was trying to think about places that I've been to in France that I really enjoyed going to, and one of them was Annecy, and I love the city of Annecy. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I was lucky enough to go there about 2 years ago, and I went there for my birthday. It was a really odd weekend though, because my dad booked sedgewaying, and he said that it was going to be a really nice day of the year, and it was lovely, and it was going to be really bright and sunny. And we arrived and it was really bad weather. So it was absolutely pouring down with rain, and it was thunder and lightning. So we didn't end up going sedgewaying, but my dad really still wanted to. And he said to me, you know, I can go and buy umbrellas and we can still go. And I just said, no, Dad, I'm not going on a sedgeway with an umbrella in this weather. It's ridiculous. I was just not going to do it. But no, it was really nice to go and see Annecy, and I hope that I'll get to go back there eventually. I'm sure that I will, because my parents live so close to it, so I would definitely have the chance when I next visit them even. Because I think that they live within 2 hours driving to Annecy, so it's really not that far. And I've been quite fortunate because my parents live on the Swiss border. So their house is the last house in Switzerland before you reach France, or at least in that area. So it really is, and it has its positives and negatives, of course. The positives are that it's a really quirky house, and it's one of those houses that you don't really know what to do in a bad situation. So, for instance, the neighbours in France once complained that my parents were on the karaoke or something, and they didn't like it. But they couldn't tell on them because they just couldn't. There was nobody to tell them off because they were on another side. It was the other country. So it was really confusing, and sometimes that stuff happens, and it can get confusing as well when I go over and when I get messages on my phone saying welcome to France, welcome to Switzerland, welcome to France. That probably happens about every 30 minutes, even if I don't move around, even if I'm just in the same spot. It happens so much. But yeah, so pretty interesting, and I think the house is really nice, and maybe that's where I got some of the inspiration as well, because on the French side of Switzerland, a lot of the architecture does remind me of what I'm building here. So a lot of the houses do have these beautiful shutters. I absolutely love shutters, and I think now that I've lived in Switzerland, I think that I won't be able to live without having shutters on a house. Every single house that I look at, or that I'm thinking about buying in the future, it just has to have a pair of shutters on, just because it's something that I just remember being a really beautiful thing. And when I first moved to Switzerland, I just loved the fact that I could just open the shutters in the morning, and it was just amazing. So yeah, I really liked that, and I think that I will be definitely looking for houses with shutters on in the future. But yeah, so the house itself that my parents live in, it's not too dissimilar to what we're building here. It's quite staggered, and it has those blue shutters, and it's in a creamy colour, so it's not all different colours like this. In fact, I haven't seen a build like this unless it's in a city or a town, so different colours of buildings put together. But I love that idea. But no, their house is a little bit similar to this in the way that it is staggered, and it's really interesting. It's got the water around it as well. But the really odd thing about my parents' house is the fact that it's so old. I think it's about 500 to 600 years old. It's a very old house, and it was originally a few houses and also a shop. So it's really interesting how it's been decorated, because the house itself was ripped out in the insides and it has been renovated. But some of the features have still been kept. So for instance, if you go into the lounge area, you'd notice that the shelves were actually from the old shop that used to be there. So it's really interesting to see the little quirks in the house that have been left behind, and it's really nice actually. And if you want to see a picture of the house, it is on Twitter, only the outside of it though, just the ivy work. And yeah, I put that on a couple of weeks ago when I went to go and visit them. But something really odd happened in that house. And I always say this with old houses because, yeah, there are always stories about old houses. And I'm not much of a believer, but I have had a bad experience when I was quite young actually, and I said that I will share it maybe close to Halloween or something. Not on this video, but something that I did experience in my parents' house was that there was a really strange time when I went round, and my mum had already told me that apparently their cutlery had been going missing, and I really didn't know what to think of that. So to put it down to anything, I would probably say that it was my dad messing about, because he is a massive jokester, and I think that that might wind my mum up a little bit. So that was probably the reason for that, but I think it's still funny, and I think that that was probably a joke for a very, very long time onwards from there, just stealing cutlery and stuff like that. But yeah, so what happened to me was when I went round, I was speaking to my mum, and they have this massive lounge, and it's actually split up. So they have this sliding door between the lounge and the dining room. And my mum was inside the lounge and I was inside the dining room. And there was this tiny little gap between the sliding door. So I could actually see my mum inside the lounge, and I could see what she was doing. And I could see that she was fluffing up the pillows. She was making the room look really nice. So I just decided to sit down and talk to her while she was doing that. And I can't even remember what I was talking about. It was just like random stuff. But I wasn't even concentrating that much. But I absolutely knew that she was there. And I was just speaking to her just normally. But there was no reply. And I wasn't getting any reply from her. So I started to think, this is a little bit odd. So I just started to speak a little bit louder, and no reply still. I was probably there for about 5 minutes as well. So I wasn't getting any reply whatsoever. And I ended up shouting. I just shouted, "Mum!" And all of a sudden she answered me from upstairs. So I went straight into the lounge to see what was there, and there was absolutely nobody there. And it was really odd because I was 100% certain that I was talking to a woman that I saw more than once in that room. I saw her, I think, probably about 5 or 6 times just go past the window or the sliding door, and I could see her. She was inside the lounge, and I don't know what she was doing, but she was in there. And of course, the area of the lounge is completely closed up, so nobody would actually be able to get in from outside, just not like anybody would be able to walk into the house. So it was very confusing, but I don't know, maybe it was just me, maybe it was just me seeing something that wasn't there, or a shadow, I don't know, but it was very confusing. But yeah, so anyway, this was when I was doing the build, and I had already decided that I was going to cover it with ivy. In fact, I don't think I've ever done a build that has been this caked up in ivy to begin with. I also decided to put a boat on the canal bit. I think it's the canal, but I'm not really sure. I love that idea. And the reason why is because my husband actually proposed to me in France. He took me to Paris for the weekend, and we went on a boat, and it was like a really romantic boat for the night, and we had a meal on it. It was gorgeous, and we've been there twice actually on the same boat. So we went there a year before he was going to propose, and then we went there for the proposal. So I had no idea what was going on, but he put a lot of planning into it, and he was very, very nervous throughout the day. I could tell. I've never seen him like that before. He was just shaking throughout the day, and he just looked like he was nervous about something. But every single time I said, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" he wouldn't tell me anything. It was actually a massive dilemma that I was completely left out the loop on, and I didn't realise what was going wrong and why he was so stressed. But it turned out that the original ring that he bought got lost in customs, so he bought another ring which was supposed to be a filler-in ring for the one that will be arriving sooner or later. And he ended up putting that ring into his hand luggage because he didn't want to go through security and for the metal detectors to go off and everything. So that's what he decided to do with it. And unfortunately, when we started to board the plane, the people or the staff were collecting the hand luggage bags to actually put on the plane, and they wanted to board them themselves or something. So it's a little bit odd, but that is what he had to do. He had to let the staff take the hand luggages in his bag, so he didn't see it. And when we arrived in Paris, his hand luggage wasn't there. So the ring was in the bag and he didn't know what to do. So I had no idea, of course, but it was a very, very stressful time for him. And what ended up happening was he ended up having about 30 calls with Air France, which was the company that lost it. And they said that they could really get the bags there for Monday, and that would be the earliest they could get them for. Unfortunately, we were going back home on Sunday, so when we were there, the bags wouldn't be. It just didn't make any sense. He eventually got in touch with a woman that could help us, and she was really helpful. She managed to get to the bag there before the boat ride went. So we had about 20 minutes, which was just absolutely hectic. We had to get in the taxi, wait for the bag and everything, and then we got there and it was all sorted. And yeah, it was pretty good after that, but it was stressful. But I'm happy, of course, that we did get that bag back. The really odd thing is as well though, is we also lost the bags on our honeymoon and we don't know where they've gone. So if you watch my other videos, you'll probably know about that by now because I really do mention that quite a lot. But yeah, so it's just one of those things. It just seems to happen to us. It's just really, really bad luck. But anyway, going back to the build, I was changing around the shutters at this point. I thought going for brown, but then it just reminded me too much of the Italian style build that I did not so long ago, so I didn't want to do that. I ended up going with some fancy colours in the middle here. I think if I was to ever live in Annecy or a place where you would have multicoloured houses, townhouses, anything like that, I would love a pink house. I would absolutely love one. I'm not just saying that because it's girly and it's that sort of colour. I just think it would look really, really good. And we get a pink in The Sims 4, which is absolutely beautiful. It's like a rose pink. And I thought they'd look really good with the windows. So hopefully you will see that in the end. And I found that pretty interesting. And of course, if you do have any proposal stories of your own, I would absolutely love to hear them in the comments because I find that stuff really interesting. Even if you haven't been proposed to yet, even if it's your dream way of being proposed to, it's just really interesting because I had an idea of mine and it worked out perfectly for me. And I know other people that have had different experiences and the perfect day for them would be entirely different to what mine is. But anyway, what I was doing is I was putting in some French windows here. Now, I wanted an ice cream shop or a cupcake shop on the end here. So that's what that is going to be. So it's a little bit odd, but I love the idea of putting in some French shutters, of course, because it is France. And I thought that that would go really nicely, having that open. Now, unfortunately, what that does do is for The Sims, it registers that as an outdoor area. So it's not ideal. But of course, you could have it in a different way if you wanted to. You could put another wall across there or something and you could close it off. But it is difficult sometimes to have that. But I think it looks quite nice being incorporated outside as well. I think that this build would look really nice in Windenburg if you didn't want to move it, if you didn't want to have it in where I have it at the moment, which is Willow Creek. You could move it somewhere else and it could look really good there, but I think that I kept it here just for lighting to begin with. I didn't want to go all out and start thinking about having this in Oasis Springs because it just wouldn't have gone very well there. And I don't like to build in Granite Falls, and that is because it's a holiday home. I think you could have this as a holiday home if you wanted to. If you had the Life's a Beach mod, then you absolutely could, and you could have this as a holiday home and it could look really good. But I really didn't want to do that. But anyway, what I was doing is I was splitting up the inside. Now, I really didn't know what I wanted here. I was trying to think about French architecture, and that was really difficult for me. So I was trying to think in my head about all these different French restaurants that I've been to just around local towns and trying to incorporate little parts of that into this build because I definitely wanted that. Something that I really like about a lot of local French restaurants around where my parents live is the fact that it's just very homely. It looks like a family business and there's often a house upstairs for the people, and I just love that. I love that idea. So there is going to be a little house in this one as well. I think it's always a good idea for the restaurants to have a little house area upstairs in case the Sims wanted to stay over. And it also makes it a lot easier if you're trying to run a restaurant in, well, a really good way, then you could have it so that the Sims never leave the restaurant. This could actually be their house. And I have done that one time before. In fact, on my own private games, I had a family that they had a shop and they only had a plot of land and that was their residence, but the shop was actually where they lived. So I think it's always interesting to mix it up and do different things like that. But I think what you'll also notice is when it does come to the inside, I didn't really put that many tables and chairs in. And that's because looking at the game and looking at how it works with the people arriving, I wanted it to look packed as much as it could. So I did make the mistake in other builds that I've done that I included loads and loads of tables expecting that loads of Sims would show up, but it's often not the case. And I also think that for this build, I want it to look very exclusive and I want it to be packed. So I think that for the tables that you will see in this, I think it might just be enough, and I was definitely happy with how it was looking. But anyway, what I decided to do was I decided to split up the different houses into the different areas. So even though it's a restaurant, all the way through, it's going to have different parts in it that do different things. So we have an area which is going to be a very elegant, glamorous place to sit, and then we have another room which is more casual, and the cupcake factory. It looks like great entertainment for kids, so we don't have many kids objects at the moment. And I don't even think they can use the cupcake machine, but it still looks like a child activity, and I just love that. In fact, my sister is actually very, very good at making cakes, and she's made a few for me in the past, and she made a fantastic one for my 21st birthday. She made a cake of my dog, which was really interesting, but no, I absolutely loved it. So I always find cake making really interesting, even though I can't do it myself. I'm really, really bad at baking, but there we go. So this was when I was on to decorating the inside of the build. So what I was doing here is I was playing around with the new objects that we get. So we get some corner tables, and I love them, but I just couldn't figure out where to put them. The room was supposed to look very, very gold though, and I think I did add some roses as well. So maybe it is a little bit Beauty and the Beast inspired in this room. And it's really strange because I did actually do a castle, Beauty and the Beast castle, with my friend Angie, aka Kaleido. So if you do want to go and see that, that'll be on my channel as well. But I was just finishing off the room. It took me a while to find out where I wanted everything. And I was also trying to think in my head, when I've gone to really nice restaurants, where do they have the tables, the exclusive tables? What do they look like? What's on the tables? It was really, really difficult, but I did use some outdoor chairs, which was unusual, but I actually think they look very elegant inside, so I was definitely happy with how that was turning out. And I also did want to put in a host table, or a table where the staff can stand, and it just means that they could really keep a close eye on these tables. Now, I think for me, I would hate to be sat at one of the tables that are very close to this host station. I always hate that in restaurants when I feel like somebody is just watching me constantly. Or when I go into a shop and I'm the only one that goes into the shop and no one else is in there apart from the person that's serving. I just feel obligated to buy something. So, I don't know, that would definitely put me off. But I think for having it very, very exclusive and having it being a really nice place here, then maybe it would be a really nice idea. But anyway, I finished off the room with some candles, and I thought by using the big candles, it would look absolutely wonderful in there. And I was definitely happy with how it looked. Now, this was the cupcake area. It took me a while, and I also used some show hidden objects, items, and I did go over my cheats in my speed builds quite a lot, but I did use BB show hidden objects, and you can find that online. If there's anything that you think that I used which you're not sure how to use, if you just type in cheats Sims 4 online, then it will come up and you can get the cheats which I use in building. I only use about 3 or 4, so not that many, but it just means that I can do different things, and I don't go over them in every single build video, but when they do pop up on my channel quite regularly, I do make a point of saying the cheats and stuff and where you can find them. But anyway, this was when I was putting some cupcakes on the table. Now, what actually happened was when I was taking some screenshots of the build and the room for the end of the video, because I always do it after I've built it, the person that I put in this house decided to clean up all those cupcakes and get rid of each and every single one of them. So the table was completely empty, and I did manage to stack some more cupcakes up on there. So they won't be in this exact order if you do decide to download the build, but they'll be in a different order. And yeah, they'll more or less look exactly like this. Now, I love giant cupcakes. I've never had one like this, but I think it would be a really interesting idea. And they also remind me of those soaps, so maybe it could be a soap shop or something like that. I don't really know. But it's just a really interesting area, and I like the idea of having different things that you could do here. If you did still want it as a house, you could renovate the inside of the house, and you could make this bit the separate business. So maybe this is where you would sell the products or things like that. That would be a really cool idea. So then what I was doing is I was just finishing off putting in a little bathroom. I wanted to stick with the whole wood theme. I didn't want to go too modern or anything on the bathrooms, because I thought that by putting in wooden showers and wooden toilets, it would just look so much better. Now, the idea of this room is that because it's French, I wanted to put in loads of bookcases and also easels, because French artwork, French museums, I don't know, it's very based around art. I think a lot of the time anyway, that's what I associate with France. And I think that it would be really nice for the build to put in something that the Sims can potentially do some skill building things on. So if you do have some Sims living in this house, you could have them painting on the canvases. And yeah, you could do all sorts with that, which would be really interesting. I thought that the room looked very old and traditional though, so I did like that about it. I managed to somehow make it look very old and ancient in here. So yeah, I ended up being quite happy with it, but I know that this won't be to everybody's taste because it's very, very brown. But I thought for the build, maybe it would fit in. It would be an older room that would be part of the build, and I don't know how many years this build would have been there for. I'd imagine that most of the houses in Annecy are hundreds of years old anyway, and I think that maybe it would be pretty accurate to have something like this here, and maybe this is how some of them would look on the inside, so I don't really know. But anyway, this was when I was doing the kitchen. Now the kitchen is in a really odd place because you can actually access the kitchen from the front, which is really odd, but it's actually quite handy as well because it means that the waiting staff can just bring the food straight out to the people that are sitting outside, and I liked that. It's quite big though, and I did include the counters that you don't have to have them poking through the wall or anything. I thought it was best to have them just like that, so that's where I left them. I thought that having a small kitchen would be a good idea, and of course you could expand it if you wanted to, because we've got this whole area inside here that I just did not know what to do with it. I was just trying to fill it up. I was really bored at this point as well. I was thinking, what do I put there? I don't know. But no, I did use loads of show hidden objects in this build, so you'll notice that the bath is all in that wood colour, and I used that for the witch house that I did not long ago. I love the crooked look, so I thought that that would be a really cool thing to have. And I think that this area, my intentions were to have it as an area that it would be a waiting room. So maybe if people were waiting to get a table, they would go and wait in there and they could see people cooking in the kitchen. And this was the upstairs. This is one of the last things that we did, but I decided to do all the important stuff up here, all the house building things, and I tried to make a fancy balcony as well. It didn't really work out for me. I really hope that The Sims managed to fix the glitch with the balconies that are going on at the moment. I get a lot of messages from people asking, how do I fix the black spots above the staircase? And I honestly have no idea how to do it. I've tried it several times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'll look into it a little bit more because yes, it is frustrating. And I think that it's something that I'm definitely hoping will be fixed in the future, but it's been happening for quite a while now. And it's basically like a black spot on the ceiling just above a staircase, so if you did want to go on tab mode and take some pictures, it would not look very nice on the photos, unfortunately. But anyway, what I was doing is I was putting on the roof here. Now the roofing at the back isn't my best attempt, but I really couldn't do much with it, so I'm hoping that everyone will be able to ignore that horrible thing that I did there, because there was honestly nothing I could do. And I ended up having this really nice overhang with the staircase here. And this is going to be the entrance to the small apartment upstairs. And I really liked this. It actually reminded me of a pub which I built ages ago for my old Let's Play Pomegranates. And I built a pub for that, which was supposed to be the girls' hangout. And it's a very similar layout to how this is. It really is. So you've got this area upstairs, which is supposed to be a little bit secretive. And then the downstairs, you can actually see down there if you wanted to. And I think that it's very private, and I just love that about this build. But I do also think it's very different because of all the features and things. I just think the inside is maybe a little bit similar to how I had that one. But anyway, I decided to put in a separate kitchen because I wanted a separate kitchen and bathroom and everything to make everything very close together, because I know how frustrating it is if you want to have your Sims living in a community build like this. And it gets to the point where you have to really walk around the house to find certain things. You have to go downstairs into the kitchen, then you have to go upstairs to the bathroom, and all around. It takes ages to get anywhere. So I thought having them all in the same place and just having a little apartment up there would be really good. Also putting in some kegs. Now I absolutely love kegs, and it was such a shame because my husband actually bought a keg a while ago, and I think that the plug wasn't put in it correctly or something, but anyway, it got lost, so we never actually got to use the keg, but it looks absolutely amazing, and I was really sad that we couldn't use it. I hope that one day we'll be able to fix it. I don't even know if we still have it, but there we go. I'll probably ask him that later. Then I was back to the outside of the build, and the reason was because I wasn't happy with everything, and I looked at the gallery photo and I thought, no, I am not uploading that to Sims 4 Gallery because it looked really bad at that point. So I decided to go over some of the ivy again and start moving the buildings back slightly. So some of the things inside, it won't really affect, it just makes the space actually larger for the apartment, so you actually have more room in there. And I thought that was a really nice thing. Of course, if you do download this build, then please let me know what you do with it, because I love to know what people do with my creations after I put them up on the Sims 4 gallery. And something that I'd love to see for this build, if it's not a restaurant, if you decide to not have it as a restaurant, if you had it as a legacy home, because a legacy house, I think this would work really well, to have all the different members of the family living in the different houses. This could really be just a completely separate thing. It could be really, really good. So hopefully I will get to see that, and hopefully, I don't know, someone might do that eventually with this home. But I'm excited about new things coming up on my channel, and I'm even more excited for my husband's channel, because he started his YouTube channel and I'm going to be doing some videos with him. And I did say in one of my last videos that whoever goes over to his channel, subscribes and leaves him a really nice comment, I will go and give you a massive, massive shout out in my next video. So I'm definitely still carrying on with that. If you do want to go and add him on YouTube and wait for some videos that will be coming out of us two, and also go and check out his videos, then they will be in the links below, and his username is also Holytaboo. So I hope you really enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all for next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.